People have to take an active interest in their websites. And the reason for that is if you're neglecting your website and you're strictly focused on social media, you're actually leaving a lot of money on the table. So it would be in any health professional's best interest to, again, take interest in their website and, again, get back on the horse and update it and get the website performing as an active employee 24/7.
You're listening to episode 130 of the Fitness Business Podcast. We'd like to thank this month's premier podcast partner, Tribe Team Training, the global leaders in providing team training solutions to health and fitness clubs and studios all around the world. Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me for Podtober 2017. This week's special guest is Dr. Bill Sukala, a Sydney-based health communications consultant and clinical exercise physiologist who has over 25 years of experience working as a health professional and over a decade of web programming and SEO experience. And today, he's here to help you do a health check on your website. Dr. Bill is going to talk us through the top 5 signs of an unhealthy website, and then he's going to share steps to getting our website in top shape. Later on in the show, make sure you listen out for my chat with Philip Mills from Les Mills International. Philip's here to talk to us about the Workout for Water event, a global fitness fundraiser for the charity UNICEF. That's coming up straight after the main interview. We're about to transition to Dr. Bill Sukala, but first, here's a message from one of our podcast partners. Tribe Team Training is a proven turnkey standalone profit center for your fitness business. To find out more, go to tribeteamtraining.com or click on the link in today's show notes. Dr. Bill, welcome along to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Hi, Chantal. Great to be here.
You are here today to help us do a bit of a health check on our website. So you got to give us the diagnosis, doctor. What would you say are the top 5 signs or symptoms of an unhealthy website?
Excellent question. The first thing that I see, and I see a lot of this, particularly in the fitness industry and all just in general amongst health professionals. Health professionals obviously are trained health professionals, but they weren't trained in websites and all the techie side of things. So the biggest thing that I see are lots of static, dead online brochures or just online business cards that people are only visiting these websites when somebody types in the URL. They're not competitive in Google search. They have these websites that are just forgotten about with no attention. They're like the burnout barn on the side of the road that you've driven by it 100 times, and eventually you get to the point that you just stop looking at it. And that's really the same way Google is. Google is scanning the internet and looking at all these different websites. And if your website's neglected, Google eventually doesn't really pay much attention to you. So, and just recently I was working with a client who had a website from, I think she had it built in 2011. And at that time, you didn't have any concern about having a responsive website that will adjust to a mobile device or a tablet. So I still see a lot of websites out there that are very dated and they're just not user friendly. They have microscopic print because it's rendering the desktop version of their website on a mobile device.
Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure that our website is active, it's responsive, and it's not just sitting there gathering dust.
Yeah, absolutely right. And one of the things that you'll hear me say throughout this talk is people have to take an active interest in their websites. And the reason for that is if you're neglecting your website and you're strictly focused on social media, you're actually leaving a lot of money on the table. So it would be in any health professional's best interest to, again, take interest in their website and, again, get back on the horse and update it and get the website performing as an active employee 24/7. And that kind of leads into the next thing is, by virtue of having a static, dead online brochure, that can compromise the health of the website. And so a few things that just off the top of my head, a few things that really that people absolutely unequivocally must pay attention to would be how fast your website loads. So website speed. Now, first, some of the things that can compromise a website's loading time. If you've ever gone to a website and it takes forever to load, some of the reasons for that can be very large images on the page, which obviously take a long time to download, especially on a rubbish internet connection. We have websites out there with a lot of what I'll call code bloat, so themes and plugins that add lots of extra code that has to be downloaded and called when a visitor visits that site. Massive navigation menus with too many drop downs and all these calls to external scripts. So, for example, if you have lots of ads and external ads that require calls to external codes, all those things, long story short, can just make the user experience really quite terrible. So speed of the website. Website security. I see websites get hacked all the time because they have websites that are using, for example, old versions of WordPress. They've got old themes, old plugins within those themes. And the hack bots are out there 24/7 scanning the internet, looking for vulnerabilities in websites and backups as well. I see lots of websites that if they get hacked and destroyed, they don't have a backup system in place where they can restore their website quite quickly. The third thing that people have to be aware of with their website is using tracking code. So, for example, Google Analytics is something that most people have heard of. And the other one is Google Search Console. Now, the old name for that was Google Webmaster Tools. So some people may be familiar with that term. Basically, if someone has a website that is not using Google Analytics or is not connected to Google Search Console, then they're not able to get information on their specific rankings for different keyword phrases. They don't know who's backlinking to them, and also site health. I got hacked years ago. It was one of my early lessons in learning about site security. But because I had Google Search Console connected to my website, I was able to find out very quickly that I'd been hacked. I was able to fix the problem quite quickly and get straight back online.
So, Dr. Bill, sorry, you call that Google Search Console?
Correct. And Google Search Console.
Is that a paid for service or is that just a plugin?
Good question. Google Analytics and Google Search Console are both free. They're free services to you if you have a Google account, or even if you don't have a Gmail account, you can have any other email and still have a Google account through that. If you have a Google account, then you can get Google Analytics and Google Search Console set up for free. Doesn't cost anyone a cent.
That is really good to know because I knew all about Google Analytics, but not about the Search Console. So thank you for that. Are there any other signs or symptoms we need to look out for?
Yep. A fourth thing that I want to bring to listeners' attention, and this is one of those embarrassing things. It's kind of like when you go to the dentist if you haven't been there in a while. Rubbish content. And it's one of those things where people have content that somebody told them, look, you got to write articles, you've got to put content on your website. But the reality is a lot of people have rubbish content that's just never going to rank. It's always going to be banished to Google's page 10 Siberian wasteland. So first, you have to have content with what we call a focus keyword. And essentially what that means is, for example, if you're doing an article on, say, exercise is too broad, but we want to narrow that down. We might want to narrow that down to a keyword phrase, say, exercise after pregnancy, or exercise, pregnancy, and polycystic ovarian syndrome. By way of having the keyword phrase niched out and really specific, that allows you a much better opportunity to rank in Google if you write content around, again, a very specific topic. So that's one of the things I see that's usually a problem. Is I see lots of articles that are written very broadly. The content is too short. Maybe it only has 200 words or something. It's uninteresting, meaning somebody just went off on a bit of a rant talking about what they had for breakfast that morning. There's no organization to it. It's not formatted in a way that Google can understand it. in a way that it can index that content properly. So remember that Google is nothing more than a matchmaker between the searcher's query and the content that it indexes. So the goal of Google is to serve the best content for a searcher's query. And if you're just writing a bunch of random kind of haphazard content that doesn't really have any direction to it, that doesn't have a good, neat, coherent structure, then basically Google's going to look at it and go, look, I have no idea what the heck you're trying to say here.
Bill, I've got a quick question for you just in regards to that, because each week when we post the podcast, we put in a focus keyword, and for us, we generally use the name of the guest that is appearing for that particular week. So therefore, the focus keyword changes every single week with every single blog or post that we upload. In the case that perhaps I'm a personal trainer that specializes in working with triathletes, yep, and time after time, the blogs that I post relate to the word triathlon or triathletes, for example, does it matter if my focus word repeats itself? Does that make it less effective when being searched for, or does it make it more effective?
Yes and no. Look, you have, first off, the theme of the website is triathlete, or triathlete or triathlons. Now, underneath of that, you're going to have a kind of a hierarchy of topics, or let's say categories, for example. So you might have triathlon or triathlete as the top level keyword. Underneath of that, you may have triathlete training, triathlete nutrition, triathlete technology, for example, just off the top of my head. So you can use, you can get away. You want to try not to have too many repeated keywords, but when you have a really niche website, it's going to be almost impossible sometimes not to have the same word in the keyword phrase. But rather than using the identical keyword phrase, you can mix it up, and you could have, say, for example, an article on triathlete nutrition, triathlete, or triathlete exercise. So again, you just have to have a logical flow, a hierarchical flow of those keywords. And you can get away with using them, again, but you just need to make sure that you're not using identical keywords all the time. Try to have a little bit of variety around that theme of triathlon or triathletes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, now was there one more symptom that we need to cover off?
Yep, and this is actually a big one, but it relates to to your website, but it also is something that can be a bit of a thorn in your bottom line, and that is being held hostage by web developers. Now, anyone who knows my work in the realm of exercise physiology and nutrition knows that I do a lot of consumer health advocacy work, speaking out against hokey diets and supplements and that sort of thing that undermine what we do as health professionals. But I've come to learn that in the web development world, we see a lot of web developers holding health professionals hostage. In other words, they set up your website for you, and a lot of times they set up, to be honest, I see a lot of rubbish websites that are not done very well, and the person does not have direct control over their hosting account. They don't have direct control over their domain name, that is their URL. Okay, their web address. They don't have full administrator privileges to their own website. And as an example of this, I'm helping a woman right now in New Zealand who was absolutely held hostage and left for dead. She wanted to change her service, and the guy said, well, I'm not going to give you access to your hosting account, which this basically means she didn't have direct access to all the files that created her website. And it made it more difficult for her to be able to move her service somewhere else. And it also made it very difficult for her. She wasn't able to update her own website. When I did an evaluation of a website audit of her website, I was able to look into the source code of her pages, and I found out that she was something like 15 versions behind on WordPress and 13 versions behind on a plugin. Now, one of the main risks of this is that if you have old versions of WordPress or old versions of themes and plugins, hackers are always they're working 24/7 to find ways to hack websites. And so this guy, he was getting paid a regular fee from this person, but he wasn't even updating her website. She was just left for dead. And so where I come in, I try to help health professionals take charge of their websites and have complete control. I don't receive recurring residual fees. I'm all about helping health professionals, again, take control of their websites, stop being held hostage by web developers that are actually gouging you, number one, on the price of your website, because they're just creating your website using a template. They're not actually building you a website. And it's a business model that I see where web developers they rely on dependency and they don't educate you to be able to take charge of your own website. And so in the long run, I find that when health professionals do not have a vested interest and really understand what it is that's going on with their own websites, they get left behind. It becomes unimportant. But social media, everybody's on it. They have direct control. They're interacting with it. And I think that's the headspace people need to be in with their websites.
And that's why it is perfectly timed that we've got you on today to talk about this health check for our website. So now that we have a good feel for some of the signs and symptoms of an unhealthy website, how about we take a step into some of the ways that we can start to get our website into top shape?
Absolutely. Well, look, the first thing I'll point out is that most of the things that I'm going to talk about here now are DIY. You don't need to pay a fortune to somebody to do these things, but you do need to first take an interest in your website and, again, take control. And I'll discuss that in a little bit more depth in just a moment. But again, everyone's on social media, but social media is a lot of white noise. So again, neglecting your website's leaving a lot of cash on the table. Now, the first thing that is a little checklist that I've put together here, and you have to be really brutally honest with yourself. First question is, ask yourself, is my site just an online brochure? Is it an online business card? And is it working for me 24/7? Okay, that's the first thing. And if you answer that your website's just a dead static brochure, then you definitely need to be again, taking some steps and moving forward, and ask yourself, is my site healthy? So run speed tests on it. If you Google website speed tests, plug in your domain name or your URL, and then run the speed test. And some examples of that would be Pingdom, GT Metrics, and Google also has what's called Page Speed Insights. And that's really handy because Google is looking at page speed as part of the user experience. Google wants to deliver not only really good content, but it also wants to deliver a really good user experience. And one of the ways that it does that is it when it scans the internet and it scans all these different websites and indexes them, it's actually looking at how well those pages index or how well those pages load. So another thing that you have to be asking yourself is, do I have security in place? So do I have a security plugin or do I have a web application firewall? If your site gets hacked, do you have a clean copy to restore it? And if you have, do you have analytics installed, Google Analytics? And even if you have it, do you ever look at those analytics? So, and that's something that you can Google how to install Google Analytics. It's actually quite simple. It's not anything very complicated. It's just a little snippet of code that you get from Google Analytics. And when you go into your WordPress theme, most WordPress themes have a little area, or actually, even if it's not WordPress, it can be Joomla, it can be Drupal. There's other types of content management systems besides WordPress. But almost every single content management system has a place where you insert that snippet of code, and then Google Analytics will start monitoring your website in real time.
Excellent.
And some other things too, as I mentioned previously, Google Search Console, which was previously known as Google Webmaster Tools. Once you have Google Analytics in place, then you can go ahead and link up your website to Google Search Console, which will also continuously monitor the health of your website and give you an indication of how well your site is indexing for specific keyword phrases. And so it's not just about having a website up there, but you want to make sure that that website is working for you. It's like a performance evaluation for an employee. If you're an owner or a manager of a fitness center, you need to be doing performance evaluations of your staff. And this is essentially an ongoing, continuous, real-time performance evaluation of your website. And then I think one of the other tips, one of the ways that you can start developing content, a good quality content that's going to rank, is go back and look at your content and be really, again, brutally honest with yourself. When you read your content, have you written a bunch of blog posts or articles that, again, are just random ponderings or kind of aimless ramblings? And again, this is where I have to kind of smack people in the face with a cricket bat of truth and say, well, to be honest, nobody cares what you had for breakfast. So this is the single most important tip you'll ever get for creating content. Solve a searcher's problem. Write content that actually scratches their itch. All right. And if you can do that, then that's the content that's going to rise to the top.
Dr. Bill, you have already given us so much great information about ensuring that our website is in top shape. Before we go on to talk about Health Pro SEO, are there any last tips that you want to leave us with?
Look, I think it just comes down to, again, people taking the initiative, know what's going on with your website. Don't just let it be a static, dead brochure online that no one's really looking at it. Consider your website an employee. You'd never hire an employee and then not do a performance evaluation. So why would you start a website and then forget about it? Number two, write great content that people are actually searching for and want to read. And one little side tip that you can use is something called Google Trends, and it will let you know if a keyword phrase is on the upswing in popularity or if it's on the downswing. If something's already on the downswing, there's not going to be much interest in that. Don't write about that. And finally, again, the housekeeping side of it. Once you've got your site under control, you're writing great content, don't just let that be it. Think about your website's speed, security. How healthy is your website? How easy is it to navigate? Do you have tons of drop-down menus and all those things that just make your website really difficult to use? Simplicity is everything. So it's important to have a healthy website, but also really good content, again, that people are searching for and they're hungry to read and they really want to read it. And if you serve that need, your website will absolutely unequivocally perform.
Well, I think everyone will be very motivated now to go and do a health check on their own websites. But before they run away and do that, can you tell us a little bit more about your business, Health Pro SEO?
Basically, what I do is I coach health professionals on, number one, how to take charge of their own websites. I teach them, it's the teach them how to fish philosophy. It's about self-sufficiency. It's about freeing them from the shackles of web developers who are, number one, holding health professionals hostage, even taking advantage of them with really high fees for rubbish websites, and even the maintenance fees. I've seen situations where somebody simply needed a backup copy of their website and they got charged $200 for that. That's not fair. So I come along and set this thing up, and I say, I'm kind of kicking sand in their face and saying, look, in all fairness, there are some really good, fair, ethical web developers out there, but there are also lots of sharks taking advantage of health professionals because they can. And so I work with clients in person, face to face, or if they're overseas, then we use online screen sharing. I log into for example, their hosting account or their website, and I go through and I do a full website audit before we work together. I show them everything that needs to be done, and then I show them how to do it so they actually get their hands dirty, and then they have a vested interest. They understand it. And the value of that is this. Once they have full control of their website, they understand how it all fits together. They understand what a hosting account is. They understand what their domain registrar is, and how that links up with their hosting account. Once they understand what WordPress is and their theme, and they have a genuine conceptual understanding of how it all works, then they can outsource the work, all the grunt work that needs to be done. They can outsource that at a fair and fixed price. There are lots of freelancers out there that'll do really good work, and they'll do so at a fair and fixed price. So it's a pay per deliverable rather than being held hostage by web developers. And then on top of that, I do go through top to bottom and teach clients how to do the SEO for their website. So I'll take a step back and have a good long chat about their business and who are they serving. And then we say, well, let's think about some category areas that really encompass what it is that you do. Now let's build some article ideas underneath of each of those categories. Now let's build some keyword phrases underneath of each of those article ideas. So it's a top-down hierarchical approach that I do with people to teach them how to, again, create really good content that people are actually searching for and want to read.
Phenomenal. So, Dr. Bill, how do people best contact you if they want to chat further?
If they want to get in touch with me, they can go straight to the Health Pro SEO website, which is healthproseo.com, or they can email me directly at info@healthproseo.com.
This has been so insightful and so valuable, and I want to remind everyone right now, because I know that we have covered a lot of information in today's show, that don't forget, if you head over to the website at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, go along to today's show notes page and you can actually download a transcription of today's interview. So if you want to dive into it a little bit deeper, if you need to get any of those links that we spoke about during the show or kind of read through that information, of course, you can listen to it again, but you can download a free transcription from the website. So Dr. Bill, I want to say thank you so much. This has been really, really valuable information that you've shared with us today. You are an absolute expert in this area. I've learned so much in the last 40 minutes together. So thank you so much for joining us as a guest on the Fitness Business Podcast.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
Tribe, if you haven't explored a functional training space for your gym, then now is the time. With Queenex Functional Training by Precor, there is a unit to fit every space. Plus, education is included to ensure that training is delivered with confidence. You need to jump online and check this out right now. Go to precor.com/fitness business podcast.
Get ready for this week's bonus segment, your extra injection of information, education, and inspiration to strengthen your fitness business.
I recently caught up with Philip Mills from Les Mills International to chat about a major fundraising event that they're doing with UNICEF. Here's Philip to share some information about how everyone can get involved. It's with pleasure that I introduce you to Philip Mills. Philip, thank you for joining us on the show today.
Pleasure, Chantal.
Now, you're here to talk to us about a very important event that's coming up. Tell us all about the Workout for Water event.
Okay, so what's going on is this is a fundraiser that we're doing for UNICEF with gyms all over the world. We hope thousands and thousands of gyms will do this. And we are running the event. It will be a group workout marathon in the gyms where the teachers will try and get themselves sponsored and where members and non-members will come along and donate to be involved in the event to raise money for water in East Africa. UNICEF have got these pumps that cost $414 each US, and they can install thousands and thousands of them throughout East Africa and deal with drought problems, with clean water. There's cholera epidemics and all sorts of things going on there. It's a bad situation, lots of people without water and lots of people getting sick from the water. And one of these water pumps will service a whole community. So it's a way that the fitness industry can really make a huge difference to the health of a group of people in the world who are desperately in need.
Tell us, what targets does Les Mills have set for the fundraiser?
Okay, we set our level 1 target is $5 million, level 2 is $10 million, level 3 is $25, and level 4 is $50 million. We think that arithmetically, we can hit $25 million. It wouldn't take a huge percentage of the world's instructors or the world's gyms to run events with just 20, 30 people coming along and donating $20, and we could hit that $25 million target, which would be by far the biggest amount that the gym industry had ever run, that the fitness industry had ever raised, and would be, a really fabulous thing for us as a global health industry to do, to contribute to the health of one of the poorest and most hard-hit parts of the world, which is East Africa.
So we all really have an opportunity to be part of such an incredibly important fundraising cause. So, Philip, tell us, are you providing any of your clubs with resources to help run the fundraiser?
There's a huge range of resources, all sorts of things that we've produced together with UNICEF's advertising agency that help clubs to talk to their members about this: social assets, web assets, digital marketing, physical marketing, posters for the clubs, all sorts of things. But as well as that, we've got UNICEF has provided a whole bunch of celebrities. Hugh Jackman is leading the charge on this, and he has created some wonderful, digital posts for clubs, Facebook and for their web, asking people to get involved. And it's a Saturday at the beginning of World Children's Week, and some of the big social media agencies are sponsoring it. So they're going to be removing the algorithms, and these promotions are going to go out to huge numbers of people when the celebrities post them. So there's a bunch of top celebrities led by Hugh Jackman who are going to be getting a massive amount of publicity, and we hope bringing lots and lots of people into the gym. So we'll be not only doing a great thing for the world, but we'll be bringing in heaps and heaps of potential new members for our clubs.
Okay, Philip, so for everyone that wants to get involved and wants to get behind the Workout for Water event, what do they need to do? Where do they need to go?
Well, your local Les Mills team should have contacted your club already, or if you're an instructor, if you're a Les Mills instructor, they should have contacted you. But if not, just contact them. Contact your local Les Mills team, and they will line you up and give you all of the promotional material. There's a fundraising platform where the money goes. All of the money that's donated goes directly to UNICEF. So there's no money that gets siphoned off by anybody. All of it goes directly to the cause, and UNICEF are doing a fabulous job of distributing this stuff to the people who need it.
Philip, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today to talk to us about the Workout for Water event, and I want to encourage every single member of the FBP family, please make sure that you do contact your Les Mills representative if you haven't already. Make sure you reach out, make sure you get those resources so that you can all contribute to this very, very important event. And Philip, thank you very much for joining us today to talk about the event.
Thank you very much, Chantal, and thank you to everybody who gets involved in this. This is a great cause and a really wonderful thing for us as an industry to do.
Thank you so much to Philip for chatting to me about the Workout for Water event. And further to our conversation, you can go to www.lesmills.com to find out further information. ABC Financial leads the health and fitness industry in software and payment processing solutions. If you want your business to thrive with the most advanced club management software, comprehensive payment processing, and customer service that is second to none, choose ABC Financial. Request a demo at www.abcfinancial.com.
Precore Quickfire 5.
Derek Gallup is the chairman of URSA and executive vice president of Fitness for New Evolution Ventures. Derek, thank you for joining us on the Fitness Business Podcast.
Chantal, it's my pleasure. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Let's get straight into the Precore Quick Fire 5 questions. Why do you do what you do?
The reason I do what I do is I'm extremely passionate that I want to save the world through fitness.
Derek, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've received in business is seek first to understand, then to be understood.
That's a great one. And what's a personal habit that helps you become better at what you do?
With being in the fitness business and just feeling good in general, for me, it's workout every morning, no matter where in the world I am at that day.
And what's one book, podcast, or blog that you'd recommend and why?
My favorite book right now is The Brain Warrior Way. And, my mom's parents both had Alzheimer's. And I think The Brain Warrior Way is an interesting read about how we can keep our cognitive function as strong as possible, as long as possible in our lives.
Oh, that's a really interesting one because we talk a lot about business books and we talk a lot about the importance of exercise, but that sounds like a really interesting read.
What was great about it, I've read a lot of books around nutrition for kind of the physical element. And this was nutrition for your brain health. It was exercise for your brain health. And then it was interesting of the types of sort of mental exercises that you can do to keep yourself as sharp as possible. Little things about creating new synapses as simple as brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, which sounds pretty mundane, but it actually is pretty hard to do.
Derek, do you happen to know who the author is of that book? Because I have a feeling a number of our FBP family would be interested in checking it out.
Yes, it's Daniel Amen.
Excellent. I will grab the link for that and pop it in today's show notes. And why should our FBP family come back and listen to the main show next week?
So my goal is that it's going to be fun, it's going to be energizing, inspiring, and hopefully everybody learns a little something.
I think that sounds sensational. Well, Derek, thank you very much for joining us today for the Pre-Call Quickfire 5.
Well, thank you, Chantal.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for Podtober. A reminder that for those of you who want to help us spread the podcast love, then I just ask that you share your favorite 3 shows with your colleagues, your manager, or your teammates, anyone at all. To do that, just head over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and search for the show on the homepage by guest name. Then all you need to do is hit that little share symbol, which is to the right of the show name, and you can share it on Facebook, Twitter, Google, anywhere at all. So thank you so much in advance for being part of the FBP family, and thank you for helping us celebrate Podtober 2017. Now, before we finish off today, I just want to remind you that all of the resources, the links, and the transcription for today's show can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you so much to all of our podcast partners for their support, and of course to our foundation partner, Active Management. Go to www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active for a free business development ebook. I will see you next week, and until then, remember what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.